My twin brother, Chris, and I were born identical. Later, one of us presented as an omega and the other as a beta. I was the omega. My parents worried that my beta brother would face prejudice, so they told me to always give in to him. From the day I presented, I became my brother's servant. The boy next door, my longtime crush, presented as an alpha and was a high-level match for me. It seemed only natural that we got married. Until one night, drunk and miserable, he confronted me. Why did you have to be the omega? Why wasn't it Chris? I watched as Ian threw his drunken fit. I cleaned up the living room he had completely trashed. Why couldn't Chris be an omega? Why did it have to be you? Ian collapsed onto the sofa and took another swig of liquor. My heart ached with a bitter sourness, but I forced a sarcastic smile. Oh, I would have given anything to be the one who presented as a beta. That sentence, however, sent Ian into a rage. He grabbed a fistful of my hair. Leo, don't you dare stand there and make glib remarks. You got everything you wanted, and you still have the nerve to play the victim. Do you have any idea how miserable Chris has been, all because you were the one who became an omega? I beat against him desperately, but the strength difference between an omega and an alpha was just too great. He threw me to the ground, and pain shot through my entire body. But he wasn't finished with me. There was no comforting pheromone release. Just like countless times before, I felt myself being torn apart before the pain made me pass out. When I woke up, I was covered in bruises, lying in bed. The other person was long gone. There was a note on the nightstand. It read, "Sorry about last night. You should take the day off." I tugged at the corner of my mouth and pulled open the bottom drawer of the nightstand. It was filled with similar notes. After tucking the new one away, I crawled to find my phone. A glance at the time sent a jolt through me. Ignoring the pain, I rushed upstairs, changed my clothes, and left for work. I work at a world-renowned life sciences institute. After I presented in my sophomore year of high school, my grades got better and better while Chris's got worse and worse. My parents blamed it on the difference in our biology. They pitted Chris, cooking him all sorts of special meals every day to build up his strength. Our family wasn't well off back then, and a lot of money was spent on Chris's nutritional supplements. That meant my allowance was tiny. For most of high school, I could only afford stale bread and pickles from the cafeteria, washed down with the free soup. Even with poor nutrition, I still got into one of the best universities in the country. Chris, on the other hand, only managed to get into a local community college. He threw a fit, but the federal government had cracked down hard on academic impersonation. Even though we had nearly identical faces, there was no way for him to take my place at college. When I got to the institute, I was, unsurprisingly, called in for a talk with my team lead. Leo, you've been late 5 times this month. If you have a problem with this job or with me personally, you can resign. Don't just stick around and waste our resources. I was terrified. I don't, Dr. Holt. I'm so sorry. I'll be more careful from now on. Leo, the institute doesn't need slackers who can't commit. You won't get any special treatment from me just because you're an omega. If you can't show up on time, then go home and be a good little housewife. Now get out and get to work. I tiptoed out and returned to my workstation. My stomach cramped from a combination of hunger and anxiety, and I broke out in a cold sweat. But I didn't dare go to the cafeteria now. I found some painkillers and stomach medicine in my desk drawer and swallowed them with cold water. Then I started my work for the day. The new team lead was a renowned genius in his field. An alpha only 30 years old, whose research had already surpassed 99% of his peers. The only reason he wasn't a tenured academician was his age. But his terrible temper was as famous as his talent. Still, being assigned to his team was the luckiest break I'd ever had. I didn't want to be kicked out. As one of the few omegas at the institute, I had to work twice as hard to compete with alphas at my level. I worked overtime until 10 p.m. before leaving the institute to head home. The moment I turned my phone on, I got a call from Ian. Leo, do you have any idea what day it is? Get over to your parents' house now. He barked his order and hung up. I had to check my phone's calendar to remember. It was my birthday, and Chris's birthday too. The second I walked through the door, I was met with 3 pairs of accusing eyes. They belonged to my parents and Ian. Chris, however, didn't even look at me. He just kept chatting with Ian. Ever since he presented, he hadn't seen me as his older brother. I glanced at the dining table. They had already finished dinner. Even the cake was nothing but crumbs. My dad frowned at me. "Leo, why was your phone off? Don't you know how inconvenient that is when we're trying to reach you?" My mom chimed in with her own blame. "What's wrong with you? Everyone was waiting for you today. You're the older brother. You should be more considerate." Chris simply held out his hand. "Leo, where's my present?" I put my briefcase down in the entryway and changed my shoes. My slippers were old and hadn't been washed in ages. They were a dingy gray. I looked down at Chris's feet. He was wearing a pair of nearly new, spotless white slippers. I didn't answer any of them. I was just too tired. I went to the kitchen on my own to get some rice. When I opened the rice cooker, I found it was empty. My mom called out from the other room, "I think I might have made too little rice today. You've already eaten, right?" I had only eaten once all day, at lunch in the institute cafeteria. My stomach protested silently, the pain making my face turn pale. Ian walked into the kitchen, grabbed the back of my neck, and squeezed hard. He hissed in a low voice, "Who are you putting on that face for?" "Leo, it's Chris's birthday. Don't you dare ruin it for him." He released his tequila pheromones, and the threat in them made the hair on my body stand on end. At the same time, my omega instincts screamed at me to submit to the alpha who had marked me. My parents were both betas. In this house, only he and I could smell the pheromones, so he acted without restraint. He shoved a small box into my hand. "This is your birthday present to Chris." I followed Ian out of the kitchen and handed the gift box to Chris. "Your birthday present." Chris opened it and his eyes lit up. "It's beautiful." It was a pink diamond ring. It radiated an expensive aura. Chris took it out, slipped it on his finger, and smiled sweetly at Ian. "Thanks, Ian." I lowered my eyes. They both knew who really bought the gift, yet they insisted on passing it through my hands. Was I just another prop in their little game? After admiring the ring for a moment, Chris suddenly looked at me and said, "Bro, I want to buy an apartment. The place I'm renting has terrible light, and my roommate talks crap about me behind my back." He looked at everyone with a pitiful expression. My parents' hearts immediately went out to him. "Leo, you should help your brother buy a place. You have a high, stable salary at that big research institute. You have to help your brother out." "That's right. You just need to cover the cost of the apartment. Your father and I will pay for the renovations." A wave of helplessness washed over me. "Mom, Dad, do you have any idea how expensive real estate is in DC? Where would I get that kind of money? I'm just a junior researcher. My monthly salary can't even buy a square foot of property." My father immediately got angry. "Your mother and I worked so hard to raise you, and you show no gratitude at all." "Exactly. If it weren't for our support, could you have gotten into such a good university? Found such a good job?" I twisted my lips into a sneer. "I got into a top university and a research institute because of my own hard work. The one you two carefully nurtured. Chris graduated from community college and is now a DJ at a club." My words enraged all 4 of them. Ian's pheromones pressed down on me again, making it hard to breathe. I clutched my stomach as my head felt like someone was stirring it with a stick. The one who started it all, however, was now gently comforting Chris. "Chris, I'll buy it for you. Just find a location and floor plan you like and let me know. I'll go with you to look at it." Chris's face immediately broke into a smile. "Okay, thanks, Ian. Ian is the one who's successful and considerate. We're so sorry to trouble you, having to put up with Leo and take care of Chris. Yes, Leo is blessed to have married you. It's the luck of several lifetimes." On the way home, Ian drove, his face so dark it looked like it could drip ink. "Leo, you know full well that his education is a sore spot for Chris. Why would you deliberately provoke him? How did Chris end up with a brother like you? You can't do anything for him, you just make him miserable." Ian's pheromones were a constant reminder. My alpha didn't love me. He hated me. I didn't understand how my life had turned into this. Ian used to be so good-natured and quick to smile. He was patient with both me and Chris. After I presented and my parents started favoring Chris, he would even comfort me. Afterward, for the first time, I didn't pass out. I held on to a sliver of consciousness and said to Ian, let's get a divorce. He just glanced back at me and sneered. Don't even think about it. He tossed a box at me. This was a freebie that came with the pink diamond. Your birthday present. The box was open, and I immediately saw the plain silver chain inside. I just felt a wave of desolation. My life was just like this silver chain, nothing more than an accessory. Leo, as long as you behave, I'll give you everything you're supposed to have. I buried my head in the blankets, not wanting to hear any more of his charitable pronouncements. I was late again the next day, and not only late but running a fever. But when I got to the institute, I was glad I was sick. Though I was late, my team lead saw that I was pushing through a fever to be at my post, and for once, he didn't chew me out. Instead, he told me to go home and rest. The institute is a place for work, not for you to recuperate. Paid sick leave? In your dreams. I really didn't want to go home, so I boldly insisted, Dr. I'm fine. I'm not trying to get paid to be sick. I can work. I refused to leave, and he couldn't be bothered to physically throw me out. That afternoon, I received even better news. Everyone, we need to make a trip to the Rockies. We leave tomorrow. If you can't go, report to me now. After his announcement, Dr. Holt looked at me and said directly, Leo doesn't need to go. The flicker of joy I'd felt was instantly extinguished. I shot up from my seat. Dr. Holt, why can't I go? You're sick and you're an Omega. It's not convenient. It sounded like he was looking out for me, but it was just workplace discrimination. I immediately objected. Dr. I'm physically fine, and I don't see how it's inconvenient. My persistence earned me an eye roll and the chance to go on the business trip with the team. That night, I went home and started packing. When Ian found out I was going on a trip, he scoffed. That dead-end job of yours that barely pays anything, you work overtime every day, and now you have to travel on your days off? I don't know what you see in it. I see a chance to get away from you, of course. I packed my bags even faster. I have a flight tomorrow. We're not doing anything tonight. Ian completely ignored me. After I got out of the shower, he dragged me into bed and kept me up until 2 in the morning. Leo, quit your job. I'll support you. Your job doesn't even pay well, and you're always working late. You're an Omega. You should be at home taking care of your family. I vaguely heard him say, Leo, my Leo, give me a child. You and Chris look so much alike. The baby will definitely look like Chris. 2. My soul felt like it was floating in the air, a surreal feeling of listening to him from a third-person perspective. None of it felt real, like it was all just a nightmare. My fever came back. Thankfully, I had set a lot of alarms. I was woken up at 7 a.m., feeling like my fever had gotten worse. I was dizzy and had no strength at all. But I forced myself to get up and get ready for the trip. Ian stood in the room, his face ashen, with several smashed alarm clocks on the floor around him. He gritted his teeth. Just how many alarms did you set in here? I didn't answer, just dragged my suitcase and left. Hey, rest a little longer. What kind of crappy job makes you go in every single day? Behind me, I heard him smashing things again. I knew what he was up to. He wanted me to quit my job and stay at home, completely dependent on him. If I became useless, I wouldn't dare mention divorce again. Then he could keep doting on Chris under the guise of being family. As for my dreams and my wishes, they were unimportant in his eyes. This trip to the Rockies was to search for a special high-altitude plant called the snow jellyfish. The snow jellyfish has a natural affinity for omega pheromones. Our team's current project was to use its extract to alleviate the pain of omega mark removal surgery. The higher the compatibility match, the more painful the mark removal process for an omega, and the higher the chances of complications and psychological issues. If the snow jellyfish experiment was successful, it would be like giving omegas a chance at a new life. On our first day at high altitude, most of our team members experienced severe altitude sickness. Even a few of the sturdier alphas were no exception. Only Dr. Holt seemed completely unaffected. The team's only beta, a girl, was lying on the bed next to mine, breathing from an oxygen tank. She chatted with me. I heard Dr. Holt grew up in a high-altitude area. I wonder if it's true. I recalled his appearance, tall, fair-skinned, and said conservatively, you can't really tell. Since everyone else was practically bedridden, I unexpectedly got 2 days of rest. For 2 whole days, there was no brutal sex, no scolding from my family, no constant sarcasm and ridicule, and not even any work pressure. It was like living in a dream. 2 days later, we split into pairs to search for the snow jellyfish. It was decided by drawing lots, and I was paired with Dr. Holt. Amid my colleagues' sympathetic glances, I gritted my teeth and kept up with his pace. A mountain guide led us through the high-altitude terrain. Unfortunately, we ran into an avalanche. Thankfully, Dr. Holt was quick and pulled me into a sheltered cave just in time, saving me from being buried under the snow. But we were separated from our guide. It was just the 2 of us in the cave, a lone alpha and a lone omega. I huddled in a corner, shivering from the cold. For some reason, my fever had been coming and going, never fully breaking. Now, hit by the freezing temperatures, I felt my head grow heavy and drowsy again. I might die here. As I thought this, the vast expanse of the high plains flashed in my mind. It didn't seem so bad. If I died here, my soul might go to heaven. I was hot and cold at the same time, and then I just got colder and colder. Just when I thought I was going to freeze to death, I was suddenly pulled into a warm embrace. When I woke up, parched with thirst, I found myself in Dr. Holt's arms. He had unzipped his jacket and wrapped me entirely inside it. Water, I murmured instinctively. There's none, came the cold reply. I opened my eyes, and his face was right in front of mine, magnified. I jumped, trying to pull back, but I was held firmly in place. Keep moving if you want to freeze to death. Dr. Holt looked at me. This is why I say omegas aren't suited for polar expeditions. Any other alpha wouldn't have let themselves get frozen into a complete idiot in this situation. I pressed my lips together, unable to argue. Omegas were at a congenital disadvantage when it came to physical strength. Thank you, you should be. I didn't know how to respond to that. I stayed quiet, curled up in his arms like a quail. Suddenly, my nose caught a unique scent. It was faint, but incredibly pleasant. I lifted my head and looked around. What are you looking at? My movement created a gap between us, and cold air rushed in, making me shiver. There's a really nice smell. Under his gaze, I belatedly realized it was probably the scent of his pheromones. And for me, a married omega, to say something like that was practically sexual harassment. My face instantly burned hot. Dr. Holt remained composed. Thanks. You, on the other hand, smell terrible. I lowered my head, the flush draining from my face, leaving it pale. Alpha pheromones are mutually repellent. Do you have a partner? He added. Took me a moment to process, then I said numbly, I'm married. Is that so? My condolences. Thank you. My marriage certainly deserved condolences, but I didn't feel the need to tell my boss, with whom I wasn't close. I found myself uncontrollably absorbing his pheromones. Normally, a fully marked omega should feel discomfort smelling another alpha's pheromones. But Dr. Holt seemed to be an exception for me. I had a wild but logical guess. My pheromone compatibility with him must be very high. Higher than my compatibility with Ian. The silence made me drift off to sleep again. I was woken up by a commotion. The moment I opened my eyes, Dr. Holt pushed me away. Rescues here. I glanced at my phone. It had been less than 5 hours. They were faster than I expected. A group of people rushed in and immediately started fussing over Dr. Holt, as expected for a researcher of near national treasure status. I was left on the periphery, brushing the snow off myself. As I was about to follow the group out, I caught that familiar scent again. Looking at Dr. Holt, who was surrounded by people up ahead, I hesitated. How could there be a scent so similar to his inside this cave? What are you standing there for? Fell in love with the cave. Let's go. He turned back, and instantly all eyes were on me. I forced myself to point upwards. I think there's something up there. We had found the snow jellyfish. No one had expected it to be this easy. This plant, which had previously only existed in the stories of local herders, liked to grow in damp, sheltered caves. In the sunlight, it had a strange, iridescent white color and was shaped like a jellyfish, but it was a type of fungus. Unexpectedly, for someone as cold and hard as Dr. Holt, the physical manifestation of his pheromones was something as beautiful and delicate as the snow jellyfish mushroom. After a week in the Rockies and collecting enough samples, we headed back. I returned home, travel-worn and exhausted. The moment I opened the door, I saw a strange man under Ian in the living room. He bore a slight resemblance to Chris, especially his almond-shaped eyes. When he saw me, the man's eyes widened like a startled deer. Who are you?" "Just the tenant. You two carry on." I started to drag my suitcase toward the guest bedroom. But Ian got up, his expression unreadable. The next second, he said to the man beneath him, "Get out." Then he rose and walked toward me. I was incredibly frustrated. Ian was like a hyena. The moment he found prey that looked more like Chris, he immediately switched targets. I tried to slam the door shut, but he stopped me. He threw me onto the bed in the guest room and started tearing at my clothes. "Whose bastard pheromones are all over you? Leo, did you fucking cheat on me?" Took me a second to realize he must have been smelling Dr. Holt's scent, but the next moment, rage consumed me. "Yes, I cheated. I'm begging you. Just divorce me." Ian slapped me across the face, swelling up one side of it. I knew it. Chris was right. "You're just a promiscuous omega." Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't take it anymore. I reached for the nightstand, grabbed a pen, and plunged it into the gland on the back of his neck. He let out a blood-curdling scream, lifted me up, and slammed me onto the floor. I felt like a shattered porcelain plate. My body, my heart, everything hurt so much. Living was so painful. I didn't want to live anymore. The immense pain made me black out. A pool of blood spread out beneath me. I was moved from the ICU to a regular ward. When I opened my eyes, I saw my parents and Chris. Chris was extremely agitated, pointing at my face and yelling, "Leo, how could you be so vicious? You injured Ian's gland. It could affect him for the rest of his life. He could be disabled because of you. Do you understand that?" My parents joined in. "Leo, Ian has helped our family so much. How could you do this to him? Married couples fight, but you don't attack someone so viciously. We failed to teach you better. You're gonna go apologize to Ian right now. You'll get on your knees if you have to and beg for his forgiveness." I looked at this insane family, my gaze shifting to the nurse who came in to change my 4-drip. "Could you please contact the Omega Protection Agency for me?" "Thank you." The young nurse immediately nodded, but Chris blocked her path. "What Omega Protection Agency? This is just a family dispute. Don't you go sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, or you'll regret it." His eyes were fierce. I closed mine, not wanting to make things difficult for the nurse. Instead, I said, "Please call my workplace for me. Tell them I had a miscarriage and need to take a leave of absence." I gave her my supervisor's number. She jotted it down, nodded, and quickly left. After that, I didn't say another word. No matter what the three of them said, I just kept my eyes closed and remained silent. "Leo, how could I have given birth to such a malicious child? Ian is your husband. Is there anything you can't talk about calmly? He puts up with so much from our family. Isn't it your duty to put up with him? So you had a miscarriage, so what? Ian's gland was injured. Can you even imagine how much pain he's in? You're completely rotten. After what you've done, what if the Blackwood family decides to come after us? You have to get Ian's forgiveness." The door to the ward suddenly opened, and all the noise stopped. I opened my eyes and saw Dr. Holt standing at the entrance. "Thank you for coming to see me. Please help me contact the OPA. I'm sorry. I might have to take a long leave of absence." A dozen thoughts flashed through my mind, but what came out was, "Holt, save me." Tears blurred my vision. I hadn't cried since waking up, but now my eyes filled so much I could barely see. I really couldn't hold on any longer. Please, someone save me. My family was stunned. Chris's face suddenly flushed when he saw the visitor. Excuse me, and you are? Holt didn't even glance at him. I don't talk to people who didn't finish a 4-year degree. It lowers my IQ. The color drained from Chris's face, then returned in blotches of red and white. Holt walked over to me, and I grabbed onto him like he was a lifeline. Please take me away. Okay, don't cry. My parents and Chris immediately protested. Hey, where are you going? Who are you? Put my son down. Leo, what's your relationship with this man? Did you cheat on him? But they couldn't get near Holt. His bodyguards stepped in and blocked them. Holt carried me out of the hospital room and had me transferred to a public hospital under the jurisdiction of the Omega Protection Agency. Isud Ian. Not just for divorce, but for domestic abuse, marital rape, and assault leading to a miscarriage. I submitted all the evidence I had collected over 3 years of marriage. The divorce went through smoothly, but getting Ian sent to prison was difficult. Even though he was only an illegitimate son, the Blackwood family still stepped in to protect their reputation and bailed him out. I had expected as much. If Holt hadn't intervened, I probably wouldn't have even been able to contact the OPA. And even if I had, my family would have sabotaged it. The reason I dared to act this time, aside from being pushed to my breaking point, was because I was on Holt's team. Holt had a bad temper, but he was fiercely protective of his own. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep, so I sat on the windowsill. The door to my room suddenly opened. Counting the stars? Get down. I didn't move. I looked at him. What are you doing here? None of your business. Get down. I silently climbed down from the windowsill. Don't move. The moment my feet touched the floor, he barked an order. I flinched, unsure of what I'd done to displease the great demon king this time. He strode toward me, picked me up like a child, and placed me on the bed. Walking around barefoot during your postpartum recovery. Fucking brilliant. My toes curled. I'm sorry. Am I the one in recovery? I blurted out, I'm sorry, Leo. Only then did he let out a cold snort. If you know you should be sorry to yourself, then fix it. I came to a profound realization of my mistake. I should have gone to sleep earlier, then I wouldn't be getting tortured by the Demon King in the middle of the night. Holt tucked me in and lit the sleep-inducing aromatherapy on the nightstand. You must have too little work to do. All those brain cells have nowhere to go, so you can't sleep. Rest up. Once you're better, you can come back to the institute and be a workhorse again. I took a deep breath. The future looked even bleaker. Holt gently patted the blanket and suddenly said, "The snow jellyfish research has entered its second phase. Get well. Once you've recovered, you can have the mark removal surgery. It won't be too painful. Don't be afraid." My hand tightened on the blanket, and I looked at him. His face showed a faint trace of exhaustion. Have you been working overtime to push this project forward? Yeah. Why? I've dedicated my life to the advancement of life sciences. I pouted. My heart believed him, but my mouth said, that sounds way too self-righteous. It's fake. Fine. I'm willing to sacrifice my hairline for the happiness of all Omegas. I looked at his still thick hair. But you're not an Omega. How could an Alpha truly empathize with an Omega? But Holt said, I'm an Alpha. Liking and cherishing Omegas is in my nature. I had never heard anything like that before. If that were true, how could that animal Ian have done those things to me? After a long pause, I asked, so in your eyes, I'm just one of many Omegas? You're helping me because I'm an Omega. Holt's lips curved into a smile. No, it's because I've discovered your unique, unparalleled talent for research. You are a treasure to the world of life sciences. Is that what you want me to say? Go to sleep. You can have anything you want in your dreams. I closed my eyes. Whatever. I couldn't get angry during my recovery. I thought having someone in the room would make it harder to sleep, but I quickly grew drowsy. Just as I was about to fall completely asleep, I heard Holt whisper, I'm helping you just because you're you. You don't need any label to be worthy of love. Good night, Leo. The door opened and closed. Holt was gone, and I was wide awake again. Am I worthy of love? I don't know. My parents and my ex-husband don't love me. The verdict for Ian came down. My parents went behind my back and accepted a settlement. Leo, you just wait. You'll never escape my grasp in this lifetime. That was the first call I got from Ian after he was released from custody. His voice was as sinister as a demon's. But then his tone shifted. You cheated too, so we're even. From now on, neither of us gets to judge the other. And yeah, you had a miscarriage, but that was only because you stabbed me first. I won't hold it against you. Leo, give me another child. His voice went from vicious to a low, seductive murmur. But a deep chill spread through me, and my hand holding the phone trembled. The fear of living the rest of my life in this shadow was like a dark cloud pressing down on me. I didn't want to live like this. He abused and raped me for 3 years, caused my miscarriage, and he didn't even have to go to prison. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't go home. I had nowhere else to go. So I put on a mask, walked to the Blackwood Tower, and slipped inside. Without an employee card, I couldn't use the elevator, so I took the stairs up to the 19th floor, the top floor. I stood on the edge and scattered the A4 papers I was holding. On them was a list of Ian's crimes over the past 3 years, the pathetic final verdict, and a description of the abuse I had endured. Soon, a crowd gathered below, pointing and looking up. The Blackwood Corporation staff were the first to reach the rooftop. Don't come any closer. If you do, I'll jump. I looked at them calmly. Okay. Don't do anything rash. We can talk about this. I want to see the junior Mr. Blackwood. This wasn't Ian, but the legitimate heir of the Blackwood family. As it happened, he was in the building and came up quickly. He managed to keep his composure and asked, "You wanted to see me? You can tell me your demands. I can make the decisions. Just come down first." I shook my head. I'm not here to make demands. We can cooperate. If I jump from here, you can use the opportunity to crush Ian. And if you have the energy, break Chris's legs while you're at it. I'll be grateful to you from the afterlife. A cold sweat broke out on the junior Mr. Blackwood's forehead. I can help you with all of that while you're alive. Just come down first. Really? I don't believe you. Even if he wanted to, the old Mr. Blackwood would hold him back. The path had to be paved with blood. I took a step back right before I fell. A rush of urgent footsteps came from behind. Leo! It was Holt's voice. I paused. He's my supervisor. Should I give him a work handover before I die? Don't stand so high up. Come down, please? He looked a bit haggard, like he hadn't shaved in a few days. The snow jellyfish experiment was a success. He looked at me, taking slow, cautious steps toward me. I didn't come to see you the last couple of days on purpose. The experiment was at a critical stage and I had to be there. I wanted it to succeed a day sooner so you could be free of his mark a day sooner. For once, his words weren't laced with sarcasm. I smiled. Thank you, Holt. But it's okay. I don't need it anymore. You do. I can make all your wishes come true, as long as you live. My eyes were full of confusion. How could I not need it? In the past, I had to earn everything I wanted with good grades and obedience. Holt was quiet for a moment. Then give me your life. In exchange, I'll grant your wishes. Your life will be mine to decide. I'll make sure Ian gets the punishment he deserves, and your family will pay for what they've done. I believed in Holt's power. Deal. I let him carry me down from the rooftop ledge. His grip was so strong it made my shoulders ache. But I didn't say anything. The deal was made. I was his property now. I actually felt that Holt would lose out on this deal because I didn't want to live. But I didn't tell him that. My parents were right, I'm a despicable person. Holt had spent years building his network in academia and at the institute, and his connections were far more extensive than I could have imagined. Ian's case was retried and made an example of with a heavy sentence. He was going to prison for 20 years. He was also officially disowned by the Blackwood family, stripped of the halo of their name. For the rest of his life, he would have to live cautiously with his tail between his legs, like a dog. Ian was careless in prison. A machine crushed one of his legs and one of his hands. Holt stroked my hair and led me into a therapy room. A gentle Omega therapist was already waiting for me inside. I talked with him for 2 hours and felt much lighter. When I came out, Holt was still waiting for me. I didn't leave the hospital but went upstairs to continue resting in my room. The next day was my mark removal surgery. Before I went into the operating room, he told me, "Here's some more good news to cheer you up. Chris was in a car accident today. Both his legs have compound fractures." I smiled and entered the operating room in a pleasant mood. Why was I so insistent on Chris's legs being broken? It was probably the second year after I presented. He pushed me down a flight of stairs from the 3rd floor. I tumbled down 2 levels, fracturing the bone in my left leg and my right ankle. I also had a concussion and multiple bruises all over my body. As I lay in the hospital bed, my parents were comforting a frightened Chris. "Dad knows you didn't mean to, Chris. It was just an accident. We don't blame you. Please don't cry, okay? Dad will buy you that limited edition pair of sneakers you wanted." "That's right, Chris, don't cry. You're breaking Mom's heart. It's okay. It's okay." I lay in the bed, my whole body aching, but no one asked if I was okay. The doctor said I was the one who almost died. Why didn't my parents care about me? Why were they comforting Chris, the one who did wrong? The anesthesia hadn't worn off, and my mind kept flashing through past memories. After a long time, I finally opened my eyes, which felt sore and swollen. It seemed to be the aftereffect of crying too much. The first thing I saw was a phone pointed at me, with Holt's face behind it. "You cried so much you look like a frog. So ugly." Before he put the phone away, I heard the click of a camera shutter. I got a little angry. "You delete that picture. Oh, giving me orders now? Let's get things straight. I'm your superior and the owner of your physical body. Speak to me with a little more respect." I pouted, and the tears came instantly. "Hey, are you serious? Don't cry, don't cry. I'll delete it. You jerk. Was your experiment a success or not? Why does my neck hurt so much?" A month later, I was discharged and officially returned to work. It had been 3 months since I was last at the institute. Those 3 months felt like a lifetime. Stepping back into the institute, I was surprised to be greeted by a shower of confetti from my colleagues. "Welcome back, our institute's sweetheart. Here's to a new life. Congrats on being single again, sweetheart. Hey, what do you think of me?" An alpha gave me a cheesy wink. I knew he was just fooling around, and I couldn't help but laugh. "Why do you call her the institute's sweetheart?" Holt came out of his office just then, and the once lively workspace fell silent. The winking alpha hid the confetti popper behind his back and coughed. Well, it's because Leo is good-looking. We unofficially voted him our institute's sweetheart." "Then who's the institute hunk?" Holt asked with surprising interest. Seeing that he wasn't angry, everyone relaxed. "Chief, the institute hunk is that alpha from the team next door." Holt narrowed his eyes. "It's not me. None of you voted for me?" His gaze swept over them menacingly. Everyone lowered their heads like timid quails. To be fair, Holt's face and physique were objectively superior to the hunk next door. But I blinked. "Weren't you not back at headquarters for the last vote?" Holt had been the director of the Southwest branch before this. Right, it's because you weren't here. Otherwise, the guy next door wouldn't stand a chance against you." "Exactly. I don't know if it was because I had just returned, or because I had finally struggled out of the mud, but I felt incredibly relaxed. It was a work state I had never experienced before, and my efficiency was surprisingly high. For a change, I got off work at a normal 6 p.m., but the moment I stepped out of the institute, I saw people I didn't want to see. My parents were waiting at the entrance.
He walked over.
"What are you doing here?" As always, they didn't disappoint. "Leo, we raised you for nothing, didn't we? Your brother had such a major accident, and you didn't even go to see him. Leo, tell me, who was that man who took you away that day? Did you hire someone to hit your brother with a car?" I was getting impatient. I knew they didn't come all the way to my workplace just to scold me and ask these pointless questions. "What do you really want?" My dad was about to lose his temper, but my mom grabbed his arm, and they exchanged a look. "Your brother is in the hospital. You need to give him some money for his medical bills." I laughed coldly. "I don't have any. How can you be like this? Do you want me to cause a scene at your workplace?" My dad fumed. I felt nothing. Do you know how much my hospital stay cost a while ago? The medical bills for my miscarriage, the postpartum recovery, the mark removal surgery. Do you have any idea how much all that cost? They were speechless. You don't know because you never care about me. So let me tell you directly, my savings are gone. I'm broke. I have no money to pay for Chris's medical bills. My mom hesitated but finally said, I heard your institute offers loans to researchers. You should take one out for your brother. His situation is really bad. My gaze turned cold.
Impossible.
From now on, Chris's problems have nothing to do with me. Until you're both 60, I won't support you unless it's for a major illness. When you're old, I'll give you an allowance based on the lowest legal standard of elderly care. Before they could get angry, I continued because that's how you treated me. For all 3 years of high school, I wore Chris's old clothes and ate stale bread and pickles from the cafeteria. However you raised me is how I'll support you in your old age. After saying my piece, I turned and walked without a second thought toward Holt, who was waiting on the other side of the street. My parents started to follow me, but they froze when they saw Holt. I got into the passenger seat and muttered, bullies who prey on the weak and fear the strong. How do you know I'm strong? Have you tried me? My hand, which was reaching for the seatbelt, fumbled, and the belt slid back. I looked at Holt in shock. Did he just make a dirty joke? Never heard one before? I'll say more so you can get used to it. He leaned over and buckled my seatbelt for me. My face turned bright red. You know why I want to be the institute hunk? Because the hunk and the sweetheart sound good together. After buckling me in, he didn't immediately pull away. Instead, he sniffed the side of my neck. You smell much better now. My face got even redder. What are you blushing for? You already sold your body to me. I'll be inspecting the goods tonight. Pervert. Thanks for the compliment. Holt's extra. I'd had enough fun in the Southwest region, so I transferred back to headquarters to coast into retirement. I was planning to just clock in, clock out, and wait to build seniority. But on the first day, I met a very special Omega. He smelled especially awful. He was covered in the scent of explosive tequila, reeking like he'd been horribly mistreated by an alpha. Even the scent blockers he used couldn't cover it. At first, I didn't think much of it. Omegas who were frequently knotted by their alphas often had a strong scent. But this Omega got under my skin for some reason. He was pale and frail, like he'd been subjected to long-term abuse. It was bizarre. A beautiful and intelligent Omega like him was a top-tier resource. Countless alphas would be falling all over themselves, ready to rip out their own hearts for him to play with. And DC was the main headquarters of the Omega Protection Agency. Initially, I didn't interfere, but besides the unpleasant alcohol scent, there seemed to be another smell on this Omega. It was masked by the alpha's pheromones, though, so I couldn't place it. It wasn't until the business trip to the Rockies, in that cave, that I finally smelled the Omega's own true scent. It was like an unripe lemon, sour and bitter, but it was surprisingly addictive. I secretly took whiffs while he was asleep, like smelling a cat. But he was a married man, after all, and what little morality I had left stopped me from going any further. Unexpectedly, he was incredibly sensitive to my pheromones, becoming a crucial human detector in our search for the snow jellyfish. It drastically shortened the time we had alone together. After we returned to the institute, he was absent for days. I almost thought he had figured out my intentions. I thought he was planning to leave the institute to escape my clutches. But 3 days later, I got a call about him taking leave for a miscarriage. Something was wrong. I went to the hospital immediately. When he cried and begged me to save him, my mind went blank for a second. Then it was filled with a burning rage. After learning about his story, I calmed him down and told him to rest well. The doctor said his gland had been suppressed by an alpha's pheromones for years and was in very bad shape. If he was certain about the divorce, it would be best to perform the mark removal surgery as soon as possible. But his pheromone compatibility with his ex-husband was as high as 90%. If he had the mark cleansed, it would be excruciatingly painful for him. So I worked day and night to push the snow jellyfish project forward. But on the very day I succeeded, he was standing on that rooftop, Leo's body was thin, his skin pale. He seemed as fragile as a piece of paper. But he was also as unyielding as a blade, refusing to bend. Because the outcome of Ian's case was unjust, he was going to use his own blood to find justice for himself. It doesn't have to be this way. I pulled him back and promised him I would grant all his wishes. The price was for him to live. I actually knew he was gambling on my feelings for him. He was so smart. The hiring requirements for the institute were ridiculously strict. But he had fought his way through countless alphas and betas to get the offer, and was later assigned to my project team because of his work ability. It was all too easy for him to sense my interest from my attitude. He came from a poor background, was all alone, and had no cards to play. So when he found a card like me, he grabbed on tight without hesitation. He was betting that I would help him, and I would make sure he won.